Well, well. I just got home from Virginia, delayed on the road as I had to appear in a Kurdistan TV interview. They called me just as Fordo was being lit. And so, no introduction today. I didn't have time to prepare one. Um, let's go straight into this. And Thomas,
Yes.
just as we were coming in, I lost
Uh-huh.
my connection to the earphones. How is my sound now?
Your sound's fine.
Okay, no
It's
echo.
fine.
Okay,
No.
then I'm gonna continue from here, and as long as the sound is okay, I have no problem. It happened.
It did?
They fucked around and found out.
Apparently, this operation was rehearsed by the Americans and the Israelis sometime last year.
Yep. Well, both Netanyahu last year. Yeah, it could have been. I don't know.
Yeah, that's what I.
Yeah, I don't know that Biden found out, but it is possible.
No. Is there less? Yeah, I mean, okay. Given the situation with Biden, my guess is that the U.S. military did a lot of stuff in preparation for the return of Trump. And apparently one of these things was a rehearsal by the Americans. It could have been, I don't think it was, it obviously wasn't a rehearsal with all the equipment, because that would have been noticed.
You could have taken, you couldn't take a B-2 and fly it over Iran to rehearse.
Right. Okay, think about this operation. We managed to pull off a sneak attack in the middle of the whole world watching us move our aircraft around. And from what I've heard, nothing is official yet, but from what I heard, there were 6 B-2 Spirit bombers used, and these were taken off from Diego Garcia, and the story was that they were going to go to Guam. And so apparently what we did was we sent, remember sometime a week ago or 10 days ago, 34 aerial tankers took off from the U.S. and moved toward the Middle East. So we had 6 aerial tankers. Right. We had 6 tons of, we had 6 B-2 Spirit bombers. Sorry, we had 6 aerial tankers flying to Guam as a distraction. And the story was that the B-2 Spirits were with them, but you can't see them because they're stealth. And what actually happened was, while everyone had their eyes on Guam, we went into Iran, blew the hell out of Fordo, Isfahan, and Natanz, and then left. So 6 B-2 bombers. I mean, this is a giant. The B-2s that took off from Diego Garcia took off with almost no fuel. And what that meant was that they were very, very heavily laden with munitions.
Yes, and they had to be refueled midair almost immediately.
So the story is that Fordo was hit with 6 GBU 57 30,000-pound bunker busters, and the United States is saying that Fordo is gone; it's completely disappeared. Now, if there were 6 B,
remember that we're going to know for sure after the damage assessment in the morning, and they're going to have a press conference at 8 a.m. Washington time to report on that damage assessment.
Well, satellite images show a gigantic fire over in Fordo. So Fordo is gone. The 6 GBU 4057s were carried by 3. Right. The 6 B-2 bombers, sorry, the 6 GBU 57 bunker busters were dropped by 3 B-2 bombers, which leaves 3 more bombers with 6 more GBU 57s. And Jennifer Griffin, I think is her name, who's the military correspondent for Fox. She said the Pentagon told her that Isfahan was actually much harder to destroy than Fordo.
Yes.
And so I think that Isfahan was also hit with bunker busters. And then, according to Sean Hannity, 30 Tomahawk cruise missiles were fired by the U.S. Navy into...
Actually, by a submarine.
What's that?
More precisely, from a submarine. Remember when I told you that they had
from a submarine
group with nuclear submarines to the theater?
Yeah.
It was from the nuclear submarines that the fire the Tomahawks.
Right. And each Tomahawk carries 1,000 pounds of explosives. So that's 30,000 pounds of explosives came down on Isfahan and Natanz. And Natanz had already been heavily damaged by the Israelis.
Yep.
So essentially, this was the disinformation that was coming out, being put out by the Trump administration and the Israelis. J.D. Vance opposes the attack. Tulsi Gabbard says that the Iranians are not building nuclear weapons. Trump has given the Iranians 2 weeks. The Israelis say they can't wait 2 weeks. Trump and Netanyahu are getting on each other's nerves. All of that was disinformation. It was Sun Tzu stuff, the art of deception. So there's nothing to complain about in this attack. I know you said that the Kurds were framing this as the United States joins a war started by Israel.
No. That's the New York Times.
The New York Times. Okay. But we're not joining a war started by Israel. The war was started by Iran in 1979 against us. So the Iranians have been fighting us since 1979.
And I was just taking it in the chin every time.
Here's something that everybody has forgotten about. Iran, the Mullahs took over in 1979. In 1982, Hezbollah started kidnapping Americans in Lebanon. They kidnapped 25 Americans, and they ended up murdering, let's see, they murdered a U.S. Marine named, they murdered the former CIA bureau chief, William Francis Buckley. They murdered, Peter Kilburn, Lee Douglas, and Philip Padfield of the American University of Beirut. They murdered Colonel William R. Higgins, U.S. Marine Corps. He was murdered by Hezbollah. And then, so that was in 1982. That was 3 years after the Iranians took over, the Mullahs took over Iran. So they immediately started murdering Americans, and they've been murdering Americans ever since. So their plan was to have to build nuclear bombs with which to murder both Israelis, Jews anywhere, Jewish people anywhere, and Americans. So we took away their toys because they couldn't be trusted with them. And, this is all going to blow over because I heard somebody say that if the Israelis kill the Grand Ayatollah, the Shiite world will rise up in rage. No, the Shia who go to Iran leave Iran disgusted by the version of Shia that the Iranian mullahs practice, which allows for child rape and all sorts of other completely inhuman acts. So if and when the head Ayatollah is taken out, the world's Shia are going to go. They may not do it publicly, but they'll definitely do it behind closed doors.
No. The lady's asking, anybody remembers Terry Anderson? I do. I was with his family in D.C. He was taken hostage by the Iranians. For 12 years, they tortured him and his family. They taunted his family with pictures of him in captivity in the most cruel manner. And when they decided to notify the family to get ready for release, soon they announced that he was dead and buried and forget about it. The cruelty, the viciousness of these people. And by the way, that's what they did with Terry Anderson. How about what they did with Basha Amini with Kira? Kira was a girl that made one of those videos, dancing, which was verboten, and showing a little bit of hair. They captured her, they raped her, they tortured her, and then they cut her into little bits and delivered her to her family in a box.
Yeah.
These people are subhuman. I lost any compassion for them.
Well, I mean, they don't even ask for compassion. They're murderers who play the game of murder, and this is the only language they understand is 30,000-pound bunker busters dropped on their heads.
Yeah,
they understand that, and I don't know what kind of retaliation
they may yet get them.
They may yet get them.
Because they may retaliate against this attack by the U.S., and then Trump is going to rain shit on them for 3 days until there isn't a fucking mullah left.
Well, it's already happening. There are massive airstrikes that were carried out all over Iran after the bombing at the nuclear sites, and these were much larger than any airstrikes carried out by the Israelis alone. So I know Trump said, we weren't going to bomb Iran anymore, but he says a lot of stuff and then does the opposite, because that's what you do. When you're up against an inhuman enemy, you tell lies. You say, we're not going to hurt you. Come on.
But you mentioned Sun Tzu. I always quote Clausewitz. War is deception. If you don't like it, don't watch and read it in a history book. But as it's going on, all sides lie, and that is part and parcel of the thing. You don't want to alert the enemy to your next move. Only Obama.
See, the mullahs are claiming that only the entrance of Fordo was hit, and it's like, okay, you could pretend it's all cute. Asshole. Well, I mean, if Iran has made a lot of claims. They were going to hit Israel they were going to smite Israel so hard that it would be remembered for centuries. And it's like, whatever happened to that attack? Well, it never came. And they can make a lot of claims about how they've just, the IRGC just claimed, okay, the war has just begun. It's like, how many of you fuckers are left? You're Your barracks have been bombed. They were all,
they're all going to meet the Mahdi any day now. I remember everybody in the chat is talking about the hostages, which was the first hostility against the U.S. was the assault on the U.S. Embassy in Tehran in 1979. They captured 52 American diplomats, and they kept them for 444 days. Now, why do I remember this? At the time I was at NYU. Every day as I entered Shimkin Hall, right next to Washington Square, there was a big sign with the number of days and the pictures of the hostages. There weren't any assholes tearing the pictures of the hostages down. And we all went to classes with a yellow ribbon and a button that said, "Fuck Iran." I remember as if it was yesterday. It only got worse. Because a few years later, we had the Marine barracks in Beirut. Remember that one?
of course.
Yeah, you remember the IEDs in Iraq? 603 soldiers dead, 800 maimed.
I remember 9/11, which the Iranians were
which the Iranians
involved
supported.
in.
Yep. Kobar.
Hmm.
There have been attacks to both military and civilians. And by the way, I said that about the hostages. There are still 2 American hostages held by Hamas.
Hmm.
The guy who organized this shit was just killed in Tehran. He was a general in the Revolutionary Guard.
Hmm.
Do you see any newspaper with the 600 days that Americans have been held in captivity by an Iran proxy?
No, of course not.
Do you see any reminder?
The general you mentioned, was in charge of what the Iranians called the Palestine Corps, which means Hamas, Islamic Jihad, the Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine. These were all armed, trained, and financed by Iran. So, we're not joining a war that Israel started. We're ending a war that Iran started in 1979, a war against us.
And the stupid-ass New York Times, U.S., what was it, joins the war? What was the...
Yeah. Joins Israel-Iran war or something like that. Joins war against Iran. I think that's what it was.
Trump may authorize strike. Pentagon sends warplanes. Pentagon pizza account reported high activity. Now they're counting the pizzas. The order of pizzas around the Pentagon. Which, by the way, there may actually be a point to that one.
Well, also, I mean, again, it was the easiest thing in the world. The attack on Iran was announced after it happened. There wasn't a peep from anyone in the press. There were no leaks. There was nothing.
No, there were no leaks. But frankly, there were plenty of hints. I mentioned in my program on Thursday a couple of things. 5 days ago, I put a picture of a Moab on Twitter with the legend, "It's coming. If you blink, you miss it." I know it was going to happen. You knew it was going to happen. We didn't know the exact thing. When Trump says, I said inside of 2 weeks, meaning I'm not necessarily going to wait 2 weeks. And then the fucking mullahs have no better idea.
No, see, because...
We're not going to negotiate anything. We don't want to talk to the U.S. Fuck you all. And this is non-negotiable. Okay, thank you very much.
During the first Trump administration, Trump gave disinformation to CNN that American troops had left the area of Syria where the head of ISIS was hiding. And so that guy came out of hiding because he got all his news from CNN.
Yeah.
That literally happened. And he came out of hiding and he was killed by the Delta Force because he believed CNN. CNN is
like a dog.
Well, they're useless as actual news.
Yeah.
I went on Twitter just for fun, just to see, the hysteria, and there's a lot of hysteria, but it's all childish. It's really, really childish. The Chinese have said that Iran's fate is of no importance to China because they already have all the oil they're ever going to need. So there's one of the alleged combatants who's going to go to in World War III. Putin is too busy telling the world that he what did he say? He said we have every right to take over all of Ukraine, but what we want Ukraine to go back to how it was before the West got involved, and it was a neutral, disarmed country, and we'll settle for that. And it's like, okay, Vlad, thanks for putting in your insane 2 cents. He's not going to go to the aid of Iran.
The Ukrainians speak Russian. They're our people. They're ours.
Yeah.
And then today,
he said
there are 2 million Russian speakers in Israel. Holy shit! Now he's going to claim Israel as a Russian oblast.
Good luck. Good luck. He's completely unable to do anything in Ukraine other than provide fertilizer for the Ukrainian fields.
Yes.
And now he's going to take on Israel? I mean, how is he going to get troops there? From Syria? The Syrians have bottled up the Russians in that stupid port that they're trying to hold on to. Nobody cares about Russia. Russia is a joke. Russia is an international joke.
Except for Tucker Carlson, he cares about Russia. I'll bet you 10-1 he's holding a wake over Iran today.
No, he turned it right around. He did a 180-degree turn and said we need to drop nukes on Iran. So I think Trump's people said you're never going to come in the White House again with that attitude. And he said, "Oh, excuse me, I'm sorry."
Now he's talking about dropping nukes. I mean, he'll never get it right, will he?
No, I mean, why would we nuke? Remember, there were people who said that the GBU-57 wasn't going to work. These are always the same people. The tanks won't work. The airplanes won't work. The helicopters won't work.
I hadn't put it together. But now that you say that Tucker was saying now that we have to nuke Iran, General Flynn came out with an article that we need to take, that I'm not for taking things off the table ever, but we have to make an exception and take nukes off the table for these. We have all we need for this. We don't need to talk about nukes. Maybe that was because of Tucker shutting his mouth off.
Well, okay, there was a lot of people retweeting childish rants from alleged Trump supporters from the Tucker Carlson wing of MAGA. And, they were saying that these retweets were saying, we can blame Tucker Carlson for this stupidity. The people who say that we have nothing to do with Iran and Iran has nothing to do with us. This is just stupidity. When they shout death to America, they mean it. They're not kidding around.
Nope. And they're
little buddies. They've proven it. I mean, how many, a country like Iran, we've shown the Middle East that Iran is like, it's like a little crumb that we just went into their country. The Iranians announced at some point earlier this year that they had a new super radar that could detect F-35s and B-2 Spirits.
And we laughed our asses off.
We had 6 B-2s fly into Iran and out after dropping, I think, each GBU-57 has 4,500 pounds of explosives. So 6 times 4,500 pounds of explosives. And they didn't know until we announced it.
Wait a second. What wasn't 30,000 pounds each?
It's a 30,000-pound munition, but it's massively heavy because it's a penetrator. It's got like a gigantically hardened, thickened steel nose cone, and it carries 4,500 pounds of explosives, and that'll do a hell of a lot of the kinetic energy alone of 30,000 pounds creates a massive shock wave, and then the 4,500 pounds of explosives is the cherry on top of the cake. But the kinetic energy alone, as far as I know, there's only one piece of footage of a real GBU-57 exploding, and it goes into the ground, and then it basically just shoots up this kind of smallish orange hole, or sorry, orange explosive. It doesn't. There's a fake video on Twitter right now that's taken from a video game or a movie or something, and it shows like the largest fireball on Earth spreading, and someone's filming it from like an apartment, and then they're knocked over by the shock wave. It's fake. It's not real. It's AI. The actual power of a GBU-57 is the kinetic energy that this thing smashes its well, you know,
30,000 pounds dropping freely for what altitude?
It's high enough to reach terminal velocity, so this thing is going 600 miles an hour when it hits the ground.
Yeah, but I'm thinking in terms of force. Is the velocity, gravity, and weight, and you can calculate the force of the impact. It's got to be monstrous.
Oh yeah. That would, if we just dropped a 30,000 pound munition that had no explosives in it, that would be enough to smash its way down into Fordo. But what it does is it smashes its way down, and when it stops, that's when it explodes.
That's when it explodes.
So
lovely thing.
No, there are no experts. I mean, okay, and also this is a classified munition, so all the information out there could be completely false. It could have a much larger explosive payload than we know, and it could actually be capable of going much deeper than we know. That's what appears to be the case. So the U.S. military is in they gain nothing by telling the truth about the actual capabilities of their munitions. So if they put something out that ends up on Wikipedia, everybody's happy, and they go, "Oh, look!" All the experts point to it. They say, "See, look, it can't do it. It can't do it." Well, it did it.
You know that you and I can do it, and we can say that it's got Jedi inside, and people are going to read it off of Wikipedia because it's going to stay there for months.
Yeah.
I have something here. There are many funny comments in our chat tonight. Will Tucker be the first to interview the Ayatollah? Sure, he can.
The Ayatollah is in a secret bunker, and he's using a single runner to communicate with his people. So all the Israelis have to do is discover who the runner is and follow him.
I think they already did. They know where he is.
They've completely penetrated the upper levels of Iranian governance. So
it wouldn't surprise me if the runner was Mossad.
No, they're going to fall.
Another one here. Somebody on Twitter was talking about the earthquake in Iran being caused by the rods of God. No, it was caused by a fart from the devil. Did any of you in the chat, I know that you and I discussed this yesterday, Thomas, but did any of you in the chat actually looked at the geological map marking the site of the earthquake in Iran?
What about the depth?
If that's the thing, in the map, it gives a precise location and it says depth, I think it was 42 clicks.
Yeah.
42 kilometers. 42 kilometers under the surface of the earth. Yeah, sure. The roads of my ass did that.
Well, the Israelis used what they termed a secret weapon to kill 9 nuclear scientists simultaneously. And it's unclear what that secret weapon would be. It clearly wasn't a drone. It wasn't a missile. It was something else. And I did see a picture of whatever this poor scientist, poor I say, he lived in an apartment that was the furthest on the side of the building. Yep. So the outside wall of his apartment went to the outside world, and there was a perfectly circular hole punched in the side of the apartment. And then there was soot that came up out of the window, but it was completely unclear what that munition could be because it was very high off the ground. And it was the building right next door. It was like when you sink a ship, you put this magnetic mine called a limpet mine. So it was like something had been put up against the side of the wall and then detonated. Or I mean, who knows? Maybe it's a flying disc that looks like a pancake, and when it's time to be used, it turns sideways and it goes up against the side of the building. I wouldn't put something like that past the Israelis.
I really have no idea. I thought it was a missile-like rocket that just perforated and exploded inside.
That we just don't know. We don't know. And anybody who says that they know exactly what happened when and how much and what, we just don't know.
On my part, it was pure speculation. The first thing that came to my mind.
Of course.
It could be that. It could be anything else. I don't know.
No, and if you think about it, okay, the action that we took tonight, it relied, of course, on military technology and how advanced we are, but it relied mostly on lies. What did Churchill say? That the truth is bodyguarded by, or is protected by a bodyguard of lies. Something along those lines. So it's necessary that the president be able to lie to the world.
Of course.
I mean,
Churchill lied about the Phantom Army in Dover.
Of course, that was a complete lie. What
was that? Moral turpidity or military genius?
Yeah, exactly. They put Patton in charge of it. They gave it a shoulder patch. The first U.S. Army group, FUSAG, and it didn't exist. It was a lie. It was a gigantic lie.
Yes. With inflatable
but I mean, with inflatable rubber tanks, and there were trucks that were driving around with loudspeakers broadcasting the sounds of tank treads and marches. Hey, oh, hey, and
no.
Okay, that sounded like
that wasn't Elizabeth Warren's latest powwow.
Yeah, that's what it sounded like. It came out as Native American, but
I know.
Yeah. Sound off, 1, 2, sound off. Yep. But yeah, it's pretty amazing that Trump has done this multiple times, where he pulls off secret attacks in plain sight. And by all accounts, the Iranians were absolutely unaware that this was about to happen.
Yeah, but because they live in
it's really funny. They said
they live in a cloud of farts, man. It was, the signals were there. we didn't know the hour, but we knew it was coming. Trump told him.
Well, we wouldn't spend. Okay, you know that every time enormous units move, people are killed in accidents, and so we've already seen the deaths of soldiers and sailors. We're not just jacking off by moving these enormous, like, okay, a carrier. If you've seen a carrier docked, a carrier it's a terribly dangerous thing. I've read that the deck of a carrier at sea with the planes taking off and landing is the most dangerous place for human beings on the face of the earth.
Oh yeah.
So the ship itself is so huge that docking it is incredibly dangerous. It's dangerous to everybody who's helping dock it. It's dangerous to you know,
and
put it out
unforgiving,
put it out to sea.
It's a tragedy.
Yeah, sailors fall off and drown. There are accidents. Trucks that are moving supplies crash on the road, and you know, people die. And people have died in the last few days as we've been moving all these huge units around. And okay, now there's people worrying that Trump is going to put ground troops in Iran. Why? Why? What for? Exactly.
Let me clarify what I'm going to say, because I don't believe our war is with the people of Iran, at least not with 90% of them. I would not look kindly on a massive destruction of Iran with hundreds of thousands of casualties. I don't think we need troops on the ground. But frankly, the amount of firepower that we have assembled in the immediate area is enough to turn all of Iran into Fordo.
No.
And a few more countries just in case. People have no idea what we have there. We have 8 or 9, depending on the source, missilistic destroyers. Any which one of which could destroy every building in Paris and have enough left for, say, Rome. Just one of them. We have 8. Mm-hmm. We've been using them to shoot down Iranian missiles. But the firepower is immense. We have the Vincennes and we have the Nimitz. And the Jerry Ford is coming up to the Eastern Mediterranean. We have 3 fucking carrier groups. That's 120 ships, 250 planes.
Mm-hmm.
More missiles than the Mullahs could dream of in their wettest dream. It's an enormous amount of firepower. It costs a shit ton of money to put it there. They're not there for sightseeing. And if we need to use them, the mullahs are going to find out what level of fuck around and find out we're talking about. We could take over Russia. Somebody said here, what is Erdogan going to say? Sorry, I think I need to go to the bathroom. That's what Erdogan is going to say.
Well, Erdogan is aghast at how crappy his own troops are in comparison to ours.
Yep.
You know?
Oh, the Dems are already talking impeachment again. Well, you know, like I give a shit, frankly.
Make it a third time. Who cares?
Number one, how the fuck are you going to make it? Because this time you don't have the votes in the House either.
Well, also, they're talking again about how Trump did this without getting Congress's approval.
Hasn't needed.
The president can carry out military actions for 60 days without consulting Congress.
The commander-in-chief can send troops wherever they are needed in an emergency to hit any target that threatens our national security, period. End of story. You know, cut. If we depended for our national security on the likes of Ilan Omar or Jose the jalapeno on a stick Padilla, we'd be so fucked. The founding fathers put this in the commander-in-chief's hand. And by the way, that law that Congress passed that gives itself the authority to approve it after 60 days, it's never been challenged, but it's very doubtful it's constitutional. The Constitution gives the commander-in-chief this power.
Okay, the War Powers Resolution of 1973, the president is able to commit troops to combat for 60 days, and then he can get a 60-day extension from Congress. And then after that, they have to get some kind of what is it? The authorization for use of military force from Congress.
Yes.
But we're not going to be fighting the Iranians. We're not going to be fighting the Iranians for 60 days.
No, and we're not going to move troops in there either.
No. And as you said, the War Powers Resolution has essentially never been accepted by any president. It was passed in 1973, and it
was a Democratic Congress in 73 trying to tie the hands of Richard Nixon and then Jerry Ford, because they didn't want another Vietnam, as if they hadn't been the ones who created the monster.
Yeah, Kennedy and Johnson.
Right.
Kennedy and Johnson. Go ahead.
Yeah. And the thing is that the act is Congress taking for itself powers that the Constitution gives the commander-in-chief.
Right. All of this is totally nebulous. As you said, it's not been challenged in court. It's not been settled by the Supreme Court. Presidents can claim emergency powers that Congress has not challenged. And my guess is that Congress doesn't want to challenge it. Right now, they're talking about impeachment. There are no grounds for impeachment.
No. They don't have the votes, and I don't give a shit. They might as well be talking about jumping over the moon.
The reality is that the American people, a majority, supported a strike on Iran. They don't support a long-term war with Iran, but they supported an attack on Iran's nuclear facilities.
Yeah, but you know, that's the thing. All of these polls are bullshit. And all of these polls are predetermined by the framing of the question. If you say to somebody, would you be okay having your hand cut off? I'll bet you 10 to now, 99% of people say, no, I wouldn't be okay. Now ask the same question I said. If your hand was gangrenous and it was going to kill you in a matter of hours, would you be okay with cutting it off? And the same people who said no to the first question are going to say yes to the second. So what is it? Would they like to have a hand cut off or not? If you ask people, would you like the U.S. to go into war? Very sick people will say yes. Most people will say, hell no. Frame the question. Put it in
that's right. That's what I'm talking about. Americans supported strikes on Iran's nuclear facilities, but not a long-term war with Iran. And
the long-term war is not up to us.
Well, also, I mean, the Dems are I mean, they're just talking out of their butts as usual, and nobody cares. Nobody's listening. If they start protesting in the streets in favor of the mullahs, it'll be, they'll be batting 1,000. They'll have been protesting in favor of Hamas, protesting in favor of illegal alien murderers and rapists, and now protesting in favor of the Iranian mullahs. So it's like, keep doing it.
Who are pedophiles and rapists and murderers. There is a common thread here, come to think of it.
Yeah. No, I mean, George Orwell said that basically he was talking about pacifists, but I would apply it to leftists. They oppose all war that's waged in defense of Western democracies. Yes. But, in a certain way, I mean, they do have a vote, but more and more they're voting for people who can't win a general election. Like they don't have anybody to run in 2028. It's going to be Ocasio-Cortez or somebody like that. It has to be someone who has some kind of national profile, and they don't have anybody. No governors, no members of Congress. They have nobody who can win a general election.
It's too early. Nobody considered Carter as a potential candidate less than a year before he won.
Yeah, but it's so different.
Nobody thought that Obama. Who the fuck was Obama in 2005?
But see, that was 20 years ago. What's happening today is pure insanity. I was reading about the Democrats. Okay, there's a former child singer named Jojo Siwa, and Jojo Siwa was forced by leftists to declare herself a lesbian, and she had this fake. She was forced to adopt this persona of a lesbian who slept around and was a dirty girl, and it was all fake. It was all pressure from political political persons who she didn't name. And so now she's with a man, and everybody said she was, oh, she's crazy. Look, she's switching around from sexual orientation to sexual orientation, but she was never a lesbian. It was all fake. It was all being forced upon her. And then the same article was talking about how Democrats, the support of trans activism, transsexual activism, has pushed the Democrats off a cliff, and it's happened really fast. There was some case that the Democrats brought before the Supreme Court, and they claimed they'd already won the case because the person who argued it was the first trans lawyer to argue in front of the Supreme Court, and this guy lost. And
poor thing.
And this was the beginning of the end for I don't know if you've been watching it, but everybody, all corporations are ditching Pride Month, and all of this has become radioactive in politics, and
Pride Month doesn't exist anymore.
What's that?
Pride Month doesn't exist anymore.
Exactly. And the Democrats are saying that the huge mistake we made was by going after the kids, by saying that kids should be allowed to transition medically. They should be given puberty blockers and all of that.
Yeah, they're still doing it.
They're still doing it, but it's being blocked in multiple states. If you want to ruin your kids.
I'm thinking the problem when you're a trans dude who loses the Hallmark suit is that you can't cut off your balls anymore.
Okay.
If I lose, I'll cut off my balls. Oh, shit. Already did. I cannot understand, but, and I know you can't understand it either. Of all the hills to die on or to die for, this is the one they pick.
Well, they're trying to back away from it. And this is what I was saying about Jimmy Carter. Jimmy Carter when did he win? In
76.
1976, the Democrats of 1976 bear absolutely no resemblance to the Democrats of today.
Absolutely.
Except in ideologically, I mean, Jimmy Carter was an idiot and, had no real idea what he wanted to do other than to be a good guy, a good Christian guy. And if that meant edging right up it. Well, the thing is that the Democrats have done so much damage to themselves that you can't actually compare them to 1976. You can't even compare them to.
I wasn't doing that comparison. What I was saying is that in politics, 3 years, anything could happen. People you never heard from, maybe the darlings 3 years from now.
Only up to a certain point. When an entire ideology has destroyed itself and is showing no signs of regaining rationality anytime soon, and in fact is getting even crazier and crazier. In Portland, they're deciding that the city needs to be set on fire again, and this time around, everybody's saying, and why is that a problem? If Portland wants to burn itself down, who are we to stop them? The crowds are. Well, the crowds are much smaller than they used to be. Like that, I read a great article about the No Kings March, and they said it was nothing but people in wheelchairs and on walkers, people with canes.
These are the veterans of the 1970s marches against the Vietnam War.
Yeah, and they were all paid. These are people. Okay, the baby boom generation saved no money whatsoever, so they're all living on Social Security from month to month. So if you offer them $200 to go show up somewhere and protest, they're going to jump at it. And I just saw these ancient crones with pink hair. It was just like green hair, like that. Where's she from? Is she from Delaware or Massachusetts? She's like 85 years old, and she's got like a green. It's a congresswoman or a senator or whatever.
Oh, that bitch is from Connecticut.
Connecticut, yeah.
Yeah. Italian American.
Yeah.
Vergogna. I don't know a single Italian American who's not disgusted by her.
Well, she looks like a buffoon. She's an old lady who's trying to be hip.
Yeah, she's trying to be hip on acid in 1962.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, Grandma, the time for all that.
Again. Oh. Holy shit! You know that I noticed all of a sudden the chat in YouTube is gone off the charts. It's gone off the charts.
In terms of
the sheer amount
of
the sheer amount of messages, and they can't hear me so well. So come to Odyssey. I don't know how to say it. You're watching this in YouTube, right under the video. There is a link. Click on it. You'll see us on Odyssey. And if you leave a message there, I'll read it and maybe we'll discuss it. We're not too happy with you, Boob. I'm glad that it's serving its purpose to reach you guys, but you know, um, if you don't come to Odyssey, you can't chat. To put it mildly, there are limits to the exemptions we'll make.
Okay, here's something. Israeli Army radio reports that the U.S. did not attack the enrichment facility in Isfahan, but rather a different site that was carved into the mountain that was unknown, yes. That's where the enriched material was kept hidden.
Yes.
So the Israelis destroyed Isfahan, and we destroyed the enrichment material.
Yes.
The enriched material.
The enriched materials bunker, so to speak. Oh, the Israelis did a fairly good work of the outbuildings of Natanz and Isfahan. Pretty good.
Okay, here it's confirmed that 12 bunker busters were used, not 6.
Holy crap!
Yep.
And that goes. People weren't here yet, but that goes to your speculation before we started that it had to be 12. And so, can you imagine 12 of these mothers?
No, we weren't kidding around. We did it once, and that was it. Okay, 25 to 35 ballistic missiles fired by Iran, with 10 impacts in the north and center of Israel. The videos appear to show the impacts are in populated areas.
It is possible.
Yeah, you have to remember that Iran had over 2,000 ballistic missiles stockpiled, and the Israelis have destroyed a little bit of more than half of their launchers, but that still leaves half of their launchers.
Yeah. Today they claim it was 70%, but that's still quite a number.
Yeah, okay, that's different from yesterday. It was half, so today, like you said, it's 70%.
Today is 70%.
So in a couple of days, it's going to be close to 100% destroyed.
Yes, it's only a matter of time, and you can see how at the beginning they were launching up to 350 in a day.
Yeah.
And now they're lucky if they can get 50 out.
Yeah. Yeah.
And every time they fire a missile, the Israelis find the launcher and that one fires no more.
Correct. This time it was 20 to 30 ballistic missiles fired in the latest, so it wasn't even 50.
Yeah, and yes, you know, I don't want to sound callous. Of course, all of this shit drops in a city. I have family in some of these cities. Drops in a city, and people can die, and often they do. The casualties so far are not great. As of yesterday, was 25 dead. And about 800 wounded, counting everything from a ingrown nail to loss of limb. Today is probably more than that. But when you think these sons of bitches have lobbed somewhere in the order of 700 ballistic missiles and drones, and that is all they have to show for it.
The Israelis said about 5% of the Iranian ballistic missiles hit.
Yeah,
So
that's the number they gave me.
100% of the Israeli munitions are hitting, and 5% of the Iranian munitions are hitting.
Yep. And in terms of destruction, Iranians have to yet hit one single military base.
Well, the Iranians claim that they destroyed the Mossad headquarters, and the Mossad actually answered on social media, "That's all right. The building was empty. We're all in Iran."
Wouldn't surprise me. I spoke with a cousin. He showed me the that he was in. Everybody was singing and dancing, and there were people playing guitar. And somebody brought a bottle of wine. These people are riding the storm with panache, which is very interesting. They're not anywhere near broken. They're beginning to be pissed off.
Yeah. No, they've had enough. They've had enough.
The Iranians. 80% of Israelis approve of Netanyahu's handling of this. 80%.
Yeah. No, there's multiple articles in the Arab press saying that basically Netanyahu is like the king of the Middle East. Like if he wanted to, if he were a different person, he could call all the shots and everyone would obey him. But he just has no interest. No Israeli leader. You hear the claims that they're trying to create a greater Israel. That's retarded. That's just retarded. They gave back the Sinai. They didn't have to. The Egyptians couldn't take it back. They voluntarily gave it back. They voluntarily left Lebanon. They always leave. They left Gaza, and look what the Gazans did.
They left Gaza. They took their dead from Gaza.
Yep.
They emptied the cemeteries. They left nothing behind except the water irrigation system that these fuckers dug out to make to launch rockets with, to use the pipes to rockets. They left those winter houses where they were producing all kinds of veggies, and the first thing these fuckers did was destroy them. Now they worry.
No, I mean
we have to eat sand. Stick the sand up your ass. What do I care?
Exactly. No, I mean you every time they're given an opportunity, they smash it. So fine. I don't care.
It's that's like a bad character. It's a bad character in a Monty Python movie.
Yeah, that's why I just don't care what's going on in Gaza. They're not. They're like cartoon characters. They're literally like. I remember years ago there was this brilliant Amco commercial, and some guy's transmission died. And it showed a close up. He was like worrying. What happens when you take your transmission to somebody else. It showed this smash cut of a transmission on the ground, and there were like 8 or 10 chimpanzees in coveralls. They were all hitting it with clubs, and it was all sped up. So it was like. Ah! And then, it cuts back to him, and then they say, "We're not like that in Amco." That's what the Palestinians are like. They're like chimpanzees with clubs. And at some point, you just say...
There was an airline ad where you put the suitcase in the belt, and on the other side of the wall, there were chimps throwing the bags around. It's a popular concept.
Yeah, no, I watched a series yesterday and today, really brilliant on Netflix, called Maid, M-A-I-D, and it's about a young woman who's raised by a two-fisted alcoholic who beat his wife, and the wife has untreated bipolar disorder. So the young woman, having been raised by an alcoholic, abusive man, she of course finds herself with an alcoholic, abusive man, and she ends up leaving him and going to the story takes place in Seattle. She goes to a homeless shelter, and they tell her she makes friends with a woman who then goes back to her husband, and she's like, I don't understand it. And they tell her, on average, it takes a woman 7 attempts to leave her abusive husband or partner. And so this woman, she's doing everything right, and she gets back with her drunk, abusive husband. And now he's even drunker and more abusive. So she comes back to the shelter. But it has a happy ending for her. And she invites her mother to come with her, her bipolar mother. And the mother's like, oh my God, this is great. I could start a new life. And on the day they're supposed to leave, the mother's like, what are you talking about? I never said, I can't leave Seattle. This is where my roots are. This is where my new boyfriend is. And he's like this knuckle dragging, and the woman has to leave her mother. She just hugs her and says, all right. She's put up with 25 years of her mother's untreated mental illness, her mother turning on a dime and saying, this is all your fault. Oh, I love you, honey. And she just has to leave her behind. And that's the story of the Palestinians. They're being left behind by the world because they've proven they can't be saved, not in their current state. Maybe they'll evolve. Maybe they'll change, but it's going to take a hell of a long time. And in the meantime, they just have to be contained. And that's that. No need to worry about them. No need to lose any sleep over them. These are people, they say themselves, we love death. It's like, all right, then die.
Help you. And that's the problem with the so-called Palestinians, who were called anything but until 1964, when they came up with the canard, which is an invention, frankly, of the Soviets and the Nazis in the Nasser regime. And they're not a people. They're not a culture. They're not a race. There are a bunch of people from the Levant, Greece, North Africa, some Arabs, not too many, who went, many of them, to British Palestine, to the British Mandate of Palestine, and have no roots there at all.
The British Mandate of Palestine was Israel.
Okay? And after all of these hullabaloo, they demonstrated, and they demonstrated it not only in Gaza, but in Jordan, in Tunisia, in Lebanon, that they cannot be trusted to live in peace with their neighbors. Period. End of story. They've turned into, I'm trying to think of something from Tolkien, of a little tribe of barbarians who eat everybody around them, and when there's nobody, they eat themselves. I've had it. I personally had it with this shit.
The Palestinians have shown that if you take them in and offer them help, they'll try to kill you.
Yes,
that's what they do. Everywhere they went in the Middle East for help. They did it in Lebanon.
They did it in Tunisia.
They did it in Syria.
They showed up. They definitely did in Syria. Yep. So you know what? I've always said, long before Trump talked about turning Gaza into a Gulf resort, a Trump Gulf resort, I always said, since the 80s, you need to raise the freaking place and turn it into a Club Med. Of course, the That was the thing. I'm more convinced than ever. And raise the goddamn place, build a resort. If it's not the Club Med as I wanted, build Trump's resort. I don't care. And then whoever wants to work as a maid and promises to behave and subject themselves to a re-education process, they can stay. The rest, how would you like a nice little tent city in the middle of the Gobi Desert? Would you have any opposition to that?
I'm sure the Chinese would be willing to take him as slave labor.
Yeah, for parts. When they run out of Uyghurs for kidneys, they can start with these guys. I don't really give a shit.
No, I mean, it's just like in the series I just finished. If someone can't be saved, you have to leave them behind and not lose any sleep over it, especially if they're murderous, especially if they're completely murderous. They're a death cult by their own admission. They'll kill their own kids. They'll kill themselves.
Yeah.
They'll kill other people.
Golda Meir was right. Golda Meir
when she said
that this war was going to end when the mothers of the Arabs love their children as much as we love ours. And she was right.
Yeah, and basically the Israelis, the only Arabs left that they're fighting, they're not even fighting the Syrians anymore. They're fighting Palestinians, and as
most
you point out,
are not
Arabs. Yeah,
they're not Arabs. They're and people in Saudi know this.
Did you hear about the congressman who was run off the road by an Arab American doctor?
Huh?
Yeah, he was driving. The congressman, I think his name is Miller, but I'm not sure. He was driving with his wife and toddler daughter, and this guy obviously had planned this because he ran him off the road. He was waving a Palestinian flag. He said that he was going to cut the throat of the guy's wife and daughter, and then he called him a filthy Jew. And so this guy's been arrested, and no criminal record. Worked in a medical group, and just one day went crazy, went a little cuckoo in the head, and didn't accomplish anything. The congressman was armed. He said he came close to using his weapon, but decided not to. And the cops rounded up Dr. Nutcase, and he's looking at a nice long. He's been hit with terrorism charges. So, good. I think the feds could get in on this, since this is a federal congressman.
Terrorism charges is the feds.
Yeah.
Congressman is the feds anyway.
Yeah. So I'm sure he's going to beg
the local DA is not going to let him walk.
Oh, nobody is. Nobody's in the mood for this. It's like, this is why the pro-Hamas marches, they were never big to begin with in this country, but they've dwindled. And I guess the Trump administration had to release, or decided to release, the Syrian fucker.
Yeah, that I was going to say, Khalil. How there were two judges and two different tracks on this. The immigration judge is continuing on, but the immigration judge is already decided that he could be removed.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know what the hell this New Jersey bean eater, what authority he had to poke his nose into this?
I think we're going to see like a pretty major uptick in all of this now that we've sort of taken out the main character in all this madness. I think we're going to see an uptick in all of this. I think that there may be some hysteria for a while in this country, but it's not going to last very long because nobody actually cares about the Iranian mullahs. I mean, Trump.
Well, Christiana Mampour did.
Oh, poor thing.
Oh, he's lovered over both Khomeini and Khamenei. She's probably going to be dressing black the rest of her life. There are idiots who actually care about the mullahs. I cannot understand why.
Oh yeah, no, and again, they're telling us that what have they ever done to us? And it's like, sit down. Do you have an hour? I'll tell you what they've done to us.
Yeah, we just did like the short list, and that amounts to thousands of dead and tens of thousands of wounded.
2 attempts on our president's life.
Hundreds kidnapped, and by the way, 2 attempts.
2 attempts.
Remember when they tried to kill George H.W. Bush?
Mm-hmm.
Remember when they tried to kill Dabia?
Yeah, 2 attempts on this president's life, but attempts on presidents going back.
But attempts on presidents going back, quite a few actually.
Mm-hmm.
So no, I don't care. I don't take anybody seriously who does not condemn the mullahs right off the bat. Period. End of story. Oh, we're not going to fight Israel's war. No, we're not fighting Israel's war, you nincompoop.
Yeah, that's really funny. That's Israel was fighting our war until we stepped in.
And now it doesn't matter what part of the world. Mm-hmm. The U.S. entered the war, says the New York Times. Yeah, sure. We've been on another planet for the past 40 years. The U.S. invades Iran, said another one in Europe.
Oh, okay. The world's shortest invasion.
Yeah, and the only invasion in which the invader didn't touch an inch of soil of the invaded country.
Yeah.
It's an interesting concept of invasion. It's the invasion of the body snatchers. We went in and took all of the dead from the cemetery so they wouldn't realize we took people with us. Well,
I don't know. I mean, Europeans are currently destroying themselves in a kind of self-loathing frenzy, but they take time out to criticize us for defending ourselves. Like Europeans, they think self-defense, like in the UK, for example, the Home Secretary recently issued guidance for its citizens. If you're being attacked by someone, you are not allowed to ask bystanders to step in to help you. You have to say to the bystanders, call the police.
Right.
Yeah.
If you say help, it's a hate crime.
Well, it's not allowed. So, call the police.
Look at me. Remember, I would rather be judged by 12 than carried by 6.
Well, also, I mean, this is beyond. This is up there with saying that biological men can compete in sports against women. you know, it's, I don't know, like you actually say to your citizens, you're not allowed to ask bystanders for help if you're being raped. And you know, thank Christ we are living in a country where the police, Sheriff Grady Judd, will commend you. You know, he killed him graveyard dead, and we're grateful.
I'm in the free state of Florida now.
Yep.
Why did you shoot him 68 times? I guess they run out of bullets.
Yeah.
When I heard that from a sheriff, I knew I was in the right place.
Yeah. Or we shot him until he changed his behavior. Yeah, he stopped breathing. Yeah,
if you're moving to our county, buy a weapon.
Yeah.
Oh, you're gonna love that. Europeans would probably end up in the loony bin reacting to a sheriff saying something like that.
Well, when the Norwegians sent what's known as the Telemarken Brigade, which is one of their elite units, to Afghanistan, somebody leaked video of them before they went out on patrol. They all yelled, "Til Valhalla." Well, that was considered offensive somehow because it
nationalistic.
Well, no, it meant that the soldiers were willing to kill the enemy and to die in defense of their mission. And that was found to be offensive. Well, we don't want our soldiers to well, exactly. We want our soldiers to not take their guns to war because somebody might get hurt. The enemy might get hurt.
Imagine that. Yeah, no.
Anyway, they're not really our. They're not really our enemies. It's just a big misunderstanding. The Iranians, they love us. Once they get their nukes, they're going to calm down. They're going to be all friendly. They're going to start having tourism again.
Tomorrow morning. I know that Masha Amini, somebody, and Terry, she's a teacher. In case of rape, lay down and think of England.
Yeah.
Don't ask for help.
Yeah, think of England as your rapist. I don't know. Let's see.
This is bad. This is bad. And the lady loves Grady Judd, the gold standard for law enforcement. I think he is. He certainly takes no shit from the press. Is your light going down there?
It looks like we're under some kind of. I think the Iranians are hitting us with some kind of denial of service attack. YouTube seems to be down.
Oh,
at least for me.
Wow.
Okay, there it goes. I'm trying to see if there's any more news about what's happening.
No, it is working for us.
Oh, it's working?
Yeah. They're denying me the denial of service. Is a very peculiar form of attack where you don't realize you're being attacked. What the fuck do they think they can do? They asked me that in Kurdistan TV.
Oh, what the Iranians are going to do?
Yeah, what's next? Well, it's up to the mullahs. But what if they attack back? Well, nothing's changed. They've been attacking Israel and the US for the longest time, directly and through their proxies. They've been attacking you for the past 20 years.
Don't say that.
But if they do it now, what will happen? Well,
Trump has already said that
we're not
if they retaliate,
again.
Trump said that if they retaliate, he's going to hit them harder than he did during this last mission.
Yeah, and we'll have different targets.
Oh, here we go. The Judgment Day is upon us. That's a YouTube video.
Holy crap. The Judgment Day. Hold on to your ass.
I feel still the same. I don't feel like anything's changed much.
Yeah, and there's going to be a lot of bullshit. The only important thing that we're going to learn new from this is 8 a.m. when we have a press conference and the Pentagon gives us probably pictures of the attack that are going to come together with and to support the damage assessment. I'm not particularly concerned. I didn't expect a single attack to completely obliterate every bunker. And by the way, there are at least 10 other places related to the nuclear program. About 6 have already been hit by the Israelis. So we're not done. We haven't destroyed the nuclear program. You'll probably delay it 10 years.
Okay, here's another update. It appears that the U.S. used as many as 30 GBU-57 bunker busters.
Holy crap. Where did we import the additional B2s?
Exactly.
Because the most
if there was
I've used is 16.
16. Okay, the Israelis are saying it was 6 to 8 B2s. We only have 19 B2s, so that would be would require the vast majority of our B2 fleet.
Yeah, we had 6
What?
Diego Garcia and 2 that took off from Missouri. I would believe the Israelis on this one.
Yeah. Yeah, I think 30 is overstating it.
Yeah. We don't despise it some more. Debbie's asking, doesn't carry up to 3? No, they carry 2.
They carry 2. As far as we know, they carry 2, but who knows? I mean, who knows? Who knows if they've modified them or? Yeah, it's 6. Okay, 2 is 60,000 pounds.
Yeah,
but let's see. The B2 can carry 50. No, hold on a second. B2 Spirit. I just want to look up and see what the payload is. B2 Spirit. As far as we know.
You know, that's on average the equivalent to about 340 people. The way of these 2.
304 or 200 Americans. Let's see.
I calculated 180 pounds, you know. Some will be 110, some will be 260. But on average, 340 people. Maybe we should throw 340 Palestinians next time.
Let's see.
It's a lot of weight.
See, none of this makes sense. It says that the B2 has an official limit of 40,000 pounds. And in the same description, it says it can carry 2 GBU-57s, which together make 60,000 pounds. So,
what about the fuel?
Let's see. Fuel capacity. Fuel capacity is 167,000 pounds. But that's when they're topped up to the limit.
Okay. So the only way this makes sense to me is it can carry 40,000 pounds when fully fueled, and that's why it wasn't fully fueled when it took off.
Okay, that makes sense.
That's the only way I could make sense out of that, but I don't know what the numbers are.
Okay, with the refueling, the 30 odd refuelers, that would seem to indicate that they were refueling. Some of those were used as decoys, as distractions, but some of them, the majority of them, would be used to fuel actual warplanes. So a refueler could get one B-2 all the way across, all the way from Diego Garcia and back.
Yeah.
But 30 refuelers, maybe, okay, a lot of the Arab countries don't have their own refuelers. They may have one or two or something like that.
Yeah.
So if there was a massive attack carried out by a whole bunch of Israel's allies and our allies, which is what is claimed, then okay, who would require refueling coming in from? I would imagine. I guess the distances are much greater than I really know. Like, say, from Jordan to Iran and back. That's a pretty long haul, isn't it?
Well, that depends on where you are in Jordan. Could be a very short haul.
True.
It's about 1,000 miles from Israel to Iran to Iran. About 1,000, about 1,500.
Okay, but as you said, if these planes are loaded up to the absolute capacity with ordnance, with weapons, with munitions, then they might
they're over the takeoff weight.
Yeah, well, they might be taking little sips all the way there and back. You know what I mean?
No. Once they take off, because they're critical for takeoff, but once airborne, things change a bit. But the other thing too is the distances are not that great. I just drove a larger distance from my home to Florida than there is between Tel Aviv and Tehran.
Okay.
So it's not huge distances, but military aircraft, notably fighters and fighter bombers, they don't have a huge range. The average is 400 miles. 500 miles is already high. That's why
I'm looking at
Israelis adapted extra fuel tanks to the F-35s. Otherwise, it would never make it back.
I'm looking at a certain aircraft they used in the Korean War that was designed as a fighter, but it was used as a ground attack plane, and it was routinely 3,600 pounds over its maximum rated takeoff weight due to the fuel tanks and the munitions it carried. So the majority of the crashes were crashes on takeoff because these were taking off overloaded by 3,600 pounds. They don't lift. Yeah.
No. And we oftentimes, with DC-8s, with 707s, even with the 7.4, with a full load and a full load of cargo and a full load of fuel, you're critical. So the only way you fix this is by not loading a full load of fuel and make an intermediate stop to refuel, and you do the trip with 2 half tanks. The problem with military aircraft is they cannot land to refuel. So if you're coming from London to New York, you're refueling Gander. If you're going to bomb Tehran from Tel Aviv, you don't refuel. You better have other options.
In Venezuela, Viasa lost several 727s, I think, because the fuel was so much cheaper in Venezuela than it was in the U.S., that they would top the tanks up. They would be absolutely full in terms of passengers, and then absolutely full in terms of luggage. And every one of the crashes was caused by them not being able to get off the runway and just, plowing into the houses.
Remember, and if you Google this one later, you're going to crack up. It was in the early 80s, must have been 82, maybe 83. No, the military were involved. So it was 81 or 82. And Aerolíneas Argentina 707 took off from Kennedy Airport and was loaded to the rafters with contraband for the military government, for the officers, personal stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, that wasn't in the manifest, because you don't put in the manifest what you're bringing illegally. So the poor sons of bitches who did the weight and balance on the plane didn't get the right numbers.
Mm-hmm.
And they put too much fuel. That fucking thing was tearing off TV antennas all the way to Montauk. And it was a big thing because it was this big fucking 707 roaring its ass off a couple of 100 feet, literally blowing off TV antennas all over Long Island. And they did manage to get it up eventually. It could have crashed just as easily. But that led authorities, the Port Authority of New York, to literally inspect everything going into an Argentine plane for a long time after that. It is quite common to have a crash at the end of the runway on takeoff attributed to excess weight. Too much fuel. You know what the other one is? There was a fine airplane in Miami, 90, probably around 95 plus minus a year. The morons that loaded the plane didn't secure the pallets well.
Mm-hmm.
And the flight engineer fucked up because he, it is ultimately his responsibility, but he trusted these guys, So everything okay, wonderful. And as they took off, the pallets slid from the forward part of the cargo bay, was a cargo aircraft, all the way to the tail. So moving the plane like this.
Mm-hmm.
And when the pilots tried to correct, the pallets slid forward. The poor damn thing crashed on 72nd Street, just a couple of 100 yards from the end of the runway. That's the second most common cause. Shifting cargo. Shifting cargo is a... And the one in Air India just now, I have no idea what happened there, but it may jolly well be excess weight. But since we don't have a report and all I have is videos, I don't know. Could have been pilot error, but I doubt it.
I guess the survivor said that he saw lights flashing in the cabin that indicated that the electrical system had gone out, because there was some little Airstream powered generator that came down. It was sticking down. That is apparent in the video footage. So for some reason, they totally lost power on takeoff, power in both engines as well as the electrical system.
Yep. Well, if they lose power in both engines, they're going to lose the electrical system as well.
Okay.
Because there are two ways you get power there. You're on the ground, hooked up with a ground power unit, GPU, and that way you get air conditioning and power while you're boarding. And I don't know if you noticed that when you're ready to pull and they're closing the door, there is a short-term flicker of the lights.
Mm-hmm.
And that's because they pulled out the ground power unit, leaving the plane in the dark, and then the engines start spinning, restoring the flow of electricity. Without the engines, you have no electricity there. And no air conditioning because they don't have air conditioning.
Mm-hmm.
Air conditioning is letting air in from the outside. That's why I always think, leaving a plane on the tarmac full of people in a place like Miami is fucking criminal. Take it back to the terminal and hook up
Yeah.
the AC.
Yeah, those 6-hour delays in the plane sitting on the tarmac. I mean, that was crazy.
Yeah, you can literally kill people that way.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
go
the
back
toilets.
to the terminal.
Yeah. The toilets overflow. I mean, it's crazy.
Everybody in the chat is laughing about Gun Atlas. Nadler, the waddling penguin. Come on, people. Laughing about Nadler at this stage is old.
It's really eerie, like the health of our Congress people, where they're so close to death and they won't give up. They're like, like Nadler, he wears special shoes that diabetics wear because his feet are numb, and so he has to. His shoes are like really wide, like tank treads.
Looks like an 18th century diver.
Well, you have to learn how to walk in this really weird way so you don't trip up on the width of your shoes. Yeah. And I don't know, just give it up. Like just go home and get into gardening. Like I don't know, the way they steal money, and it's like you can't spend it. You can't. None of them are driving around in Bentleys.
I don't think he knows what else to do. He's certainly not capable of doing anything at all. So what you're asking is that he go back to his miserable apartment in New York, okay, and spend the rest of his days rotting in there until a neighbor complains about the smell. Because that's what's going to happen to him. He wants to die going to his office. Because the alternative, it's intolerable. And unfortunately, we're going to have to keep suffering this son of a bitch for as long as the retards that inhabit his district keep sending him to Congress.
Well, I started taking a blood pressure medication, and one of the side effects was swollen ankles and
water retention.
Well, I had a swollen ankle only on my right side, and nobody said anything except for my ear, nose, and throat specialist. And so he prescribed an ultrasound on my right leg to check to see if I had blood clots, and I didn't. So he told me to elevate my feet for a couple hours a day. So I do that when I watch TV, and now I have literally no swelling on either ankle. So the blood pressure medication.
You have stereo ankles. One swells, the other one doesn't.
Well, it has something to do with osteoarthritis. Osteoarthritis can sometimes cause edema, but like having to take blood pressure medication and elevate my feet, it didn't bother me the way it bothers like someone like Jerry Nadler. Like you said, he wants to die in his office because he wouldn't know what to do if he were cut off from Congress. And there's so many people like, okay, my father he used to go into these rants about how he would rather die than wear an adult diaper. And it was like, well, I think I'd rather wear an adult diaper than die. I want to see what's going to happen. Like if I died years ago, because I ignored my high blood pressure and had a massive stroke and died, I wouldn't get to see what happened tonight. And I want to see what happens in the future. I want to see what happens with the world, you know?
Well, that's why I told my wife that I intend to die in 2051.
Yeah.
Because I want to make sure that this century is going in the right direction before I croak.
Yeah. It's the same thing. I want to see what's going to happen next. And my mother, neither of my parents took care of their health. And as a result, they both had really bad deaths because of strictly health issues. And on top of it, my mother was the most ferocious Luddite I've ever known. That she refused even to use typewriters. She wrote business letters in longhand. And I tried to get her online by telling her, look, you can get access to every museum in the world. Don't you want to do something? Oh, no, it's too strange for me. And so she willingly stayed put in the early 1900s. She was born in 1928. I don't know when the first electric typewriter came around. I know they already had typewriters in 1928.
In the 50s, they had them.
Yeah.
For sure.
But she wouldn't even use manual typewriters. And she felt like, she told me once that she wished she could have been a Sioux Indian living in a teepee. I said, no, you don't. Are you kidding? Plains Indians.
My first electric typewriter was an IBM I bought from an Army surplus store in 1982.
Yeah.
It was huge and heavy.
Yeah.
And eventually replaced it with something else. But, the problem is that when I went to school and all that jazz until I moved to New York, that type of thing was a luxury nobody could afford.
Yeah. It was like my father's Texas Instruments calculator. All it did was add, subtract, multiply, and divide in 1973 or 2.
Oh.
And it was like a $400 calculator, you know?
It was expensive. And then when the scientific calculators came out, which they're still relatively expensive. The scientific calculators, even today, they're like $250 to $350. But back then, it was equivalent of $1,000 today. Selectrics, yes. My dad had a Smith Corona. I still do, actually. And I have it complete, and I have extra wheels, and I have extra tape. And I figure one day I'll sell it to a collector, the one of the last remaining Smith Coronas that work with all you need to use it.
I think Jerry Seinfeld collects typewriters.
Who?
Jerry Seinfeld collects cars, and I think he collects typewriters too, which is very odd.
Yeah. They're also commenting about an Ezra Cohen and Josh talk, and they had. I can't believe this. That's one of the reasons I do know. They had a space, and they brought Laura Loomer in. I don't know what kind of psychopathy leads them to do that. I know they are pranksters. They probably wanted to have a laugh, but that's one of the reasons I didn't go.
A space? What do you mean?
A space in Twitter. We do one on Wednesdays now for our subscribers there. You're more than welcome to join us anytime. I'll send you a notice for the next one. It's a different thing. I did the second one this past Wednesday, we had 36 people ogling, and 4 that actually started to talk. And sometimes it gets interesting. So far, let's see what happens when more people find out. More missiles in Tel Aviv, apparently. An old folks' home was hit. See what I mean? I mean, this is terrible. But it's not causing
well, the Iranians.
Any damage that is doing anything other than piss the Israelis off.
Well, that's the thing. The Iranians think that if they cause enough civilian casualties, that the Israelis will turn against Netanyahu. Number one, they can't cause as many civilian casualties as they caused on October 7th, which is the impetus for all of this. And number two, their ability to cause civilian casualties is dwindling very drastically. And number three, Netanyahu is now the most popular prime minister in Israeli history. He did what they thought was impossible to do. He put an end to this threat that was hanging over their heads.
Yes. And by the way, I don't know if you saw the satellite pictures. They're beautiful satellite
of the
pictures
fires
of the Middle East. No, Netanyahu's balls can be seen from space.
There we go.
It's amazing. Right in the middle of Jerusalem, there are 2 ginormous balls. I can't believe what this man has done. He's taken every. Remember your excitement and mine when Trump went to Saudi in 2017. And I told you at that palace party, to name it something, gathering, they took every prejudice and every taboo that ever existed in Saudi Arabia and burned it in a ginormous bonfire when King Salman pushed Melania to go and dance with the princess, Diada. Remember that?
Yes.
I feel
now
the same thing. Yeah.
The Iranians are now saying that there was no strike at Fordo.
No. Of course,
they have a reporter standing. He's standing out somewhere, and he's mumbling away, saying that there's no strike here.
Yeah. Who cares? And
yeah,
we'll see the satellite pictures tomorrow. Maybe send this idiot a copy.
Well, they're such rinky dinks. Like what are they trying to accomplish? Like, I don't know. It's so bizarre. It's so primitive.
You know that they shut off the internet.
Yeah, true. So who are they putting on this show for?
They're putting on the show for the people in Iran because their fear is that the people in Iran smell blood and become piranhas. And as long as they can keep the people in Iran guessing and in fear, they think they're safe. The only thing they're doing is postponing their demise a couple of days, maybe a week. So no news from the outside, no internet access for anyone, zero, zilch, nada, is a flat line at zero. And then on the local TV, they put these idiots so that if somebody, talks to a relative on the phone or whatever, and they said, oh my God, they attacked Fordo. No, nothing. Look, the mountain is intact. And they show them a mountain, I don't know, in Afghanistan. Who cares? And they keep the people in Iran ignorant and stupid for as long as possible. Now, sooner or later, I don't know, Musk is going to give people in Iran access to Starlink, or there's going to be another breaking of the dam, a failure in the wall around Iran, and news are going to come rushing in. And when people realize that these idiots have been lying to them, surprise, and that their toys are gone, they're going to rise up and eat them in a big barbecue in the center of Tehran. And all they're doing is making it worse for themselves. Mm-hmm. So what was exciting for me today, that comparable to Saudi, was that Netanyahu took every single bit of bullshit, every bit of assumed knowledge, every bit of every taboo, and burned it in a bonfire just outside the gates of Jerusalem. Oh, we cannot attack this. Yes, we can. Oh, we can't take on Hamas and Hezbollah at the same time. Watch me. Oh, we can't poke the bear. If we go to Iran, it's going to be World War 17. You think so?
Well, don't you like how they kept talking about escalation?
Yeah, I love it. I love it.
Oh, it's like that's the new thing where it's like what is it? Proportionality.
Yeah,
it's a disproportionate response, or now the Israelis are escalating this war dramatically. It's like, it's a war. What do you want?
And a war the Israelis are fighting for their very survival. Imagine we stop now.
Yeah, exactly.
We stop now. Okay, we've done it. Fordo is gone. We destroy the centrifuges, and we go home. And now that Iran doesn't represent a danger, we ease the sanctions so they can buy food for their people.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to start depriving their people of food while dedicating that money to rebuilding the nuclear facilities. And 7 years from now, we're going to be in the same spot. And in the meantime, since they cannot rebuild the nuclear facilities that fast, they're going to start sending whatever the fuck we didn't destroy to whatever's left of Hezbollah. And then they're going to send money to buy Lebanese politicians. And 5 years from now, Israel is going to be fighting rockets. They fired over the years over 150,000 rockets. What the fuck would we do if the Jalisco new generation fired 150,000 rockets at Texas?
Well, the B-52s would have been sent in a long time ago. Remember the photos from the Vietnam War, the B-52s with those massive strings of bombs just puking out of the bellies of the things? Yes. That's what it would have been.
Puerto Vallarta would be separated from the continent and float all the way to Japan. And when we speak of Israel, we have to show restraint. We have to show restraint.
Why?
Well, the fuck did they show restraint? Who called for Iran's restraint? Who called for a stop to the daily barrage of rockets from Lebanon?
Well, okay, that Portuguese communist who runs the UN.
Yes.
This is the first time he's spoken up about the Iranian Israeli conflict, and it's to complain that the Israelis are winning. You know, that somehow that's bad.
He is gravely alarmed.
Yeah, that's it. He's gravely alarmed.
Gravely alarmed. Now I'm gonna read what he said. This is a dangerous escalation in a region already on the edge, and a direct threat
Edge of
to
what?
international peace and security. There is a growing.
What is he talking about?
Well, I don't know. He's talking about his left. The fucking asshole was the Secretary General of the Socialist International until they tapped him for the UN. He is a moron. He was the
what is he?
Prime Minister of Portugal when they opened the door to all of these camel hampers and literally changed the face of Lisbon.
Well, it's such a stupid thing to say. Nobody gives a shit about what happens to Iran. The Chinese aren't going to step in.
Oh, no, not to Iran. Look at this. There is a growing risk that this conflict could rapidly get out of control with catastrophic consequences for civilians, the region, and the world. Right, because Israel is going to bomb Madrid. Fucking imbecile.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, what is he talking about? None of that's going to happen. Nothing's going to go out of control. The world's citizens are safer today than they were yesterday. I don't know. It's just the UN. The UN is there. The UN has fought 2 wars. One of them is still technically on, the Korean War, and the second one, the US did all the fighting. So the UN has failed. And now all it does is it condemns Israel. That's what its job is.
Find me one statement from this communist bastard condemning the firing of rockets on civilian populations at any one of the last 20 years.
Well, this is the thing, that all the alleged human rights groups don't give a shit when the people getting the rockets fired at them are Israelis. They don't care. And then when the Israelis decide they're going to start killing the enemy rocketeers, that's when, oh my God, this is a human rights violation.
No, suck it on steroids. You count for nothing. You're a piece of shit from Portugal. Who cares? I have a question. It's addressed to you, but if you don't mind, I'll give my very short answer, and you can tell me that I'm wrong or expand on it. Do you think China or Russia will try to meddle?
No.
Number one, Russia cannot meddle in Ukraine anymore. And without the Iranian drones and missiles, I don't know what the fuck they're going to do. China, it's looking at its navel with the hairs on the back of their neck all raised because they just realized Biden is no longer in power. There is a new sheriff in town. Fuck around and find out. They were paying very close attention and they're not liking what they see. The crisis in China, do you know there was a coup in China?
A
palace
coup. Oh, a palace coup. Yeah. Yeah, that's what I heard on China Uncensored.
Not since he had the stroke.
Mm-hmm.
They have more problems than they know how to count. So fuck China. Who cares? No, they're not going to do anything. What they're saying is, it doesn't affect me. We don't get that much oil. You get 40% of the oil from Iran, you assholes.
Well, they're saying their reserves are topped up full, and it's like, are you're gonna live on your reserves, you stupid fucks?
Yeah, and after 4 months, they're gonna run out of them.
Of course. No, the Chinese are rioting for one of the most amazing reasons I've ever heard. It turns out that the Chinese street drains that are there to drain off water from floods
Yes.
are not real. They're not real.
No.
The Chinese they've dug little holes and then put in grates, and that's it. There's no drainage system in most cities in China. So in the current situation where it's raining heavily, people are in water up to their waists because the drainage system doesn't exist. Right. So they're rioting. They're hysterical. They have no jobs. They have no food, and now they're in water up to their waist.
And other word in water up to their balls. Fine. You know.
Yeah.
What can I say? I have, and I wasn't this way. I wasn't this way, but I have been turning this way. I don't give a single solitary fuck for the people who are content to live under communist regimes. That's it. I don't care about Democrats who vote our communist wannabes into office every 2 years. I don't care. Oh, but in the city of so-and-so, the quality of life is shit. Good. What did they expect? Somebody told me the city in Spain something, and I said, good. They keep voting socialists. They deserve whatever the fuck happens to them now.
Well, look at Chicago. They replaced Lori Lightfoot with a guy who has like a 70 IQ.
Yes. He actually makes Lori Lightfoot, for those of you, Beetlejuice, he makes Beetlejuice look normal.
Lightfoot was intelligent.
With an IQ of 60.
Yeah. Lori Lightfoot, she was corrupt, but she was intelligent. This guy can't put two words together. And he said, vote for me and I'll wreck everything that you have left after Lightfoot. And they said, sounds good to me. They elected him. And now they're hysterical with rage that he's following through on all his promises. He said, I'll bring illegals to the city. I'll make sure they replace you in your jobs. And the people of Chicago said, let's do it.
Why not? You know, and how about Major Wu in Boston?
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, what is it? Something in the pasta? Don't go eating in Little Italy in Boston because there might be something in the sauce.
Well,
how can they be so fucking stupid?
The actor Ben Affleck and his brother Casey Affleck have both made movies about working class neighborhoods in Boston.
Yes.
And both of the movies are about how you're born here, you never try to escape, and you die here.
Yeah.
It's horrible.
And you are what you are.
Exactly. It's horrible. Everybody here is a worthless pile of crap, but they're your worthless pile of crap, and you yourself are a worthless pile of crap. And if you try to escape, that means you're putting on airs. And the one unforgivable thing is to try and put on airs. So
yeah, the South End doesn't like anybody who thinks he's better than what he is, and we know they're all shit.
Well, Casey Affleck was in a movie directed by his brother, and the movie was about a young private detective, and he was trying to solve the disappearance of a 3-year-old girl. Her mother was a young barfly, unmarried. And it turns out that the little girl had been taken by a retiring police chief who was going to retire quite wealthy. and he faked her death, and he was going to raise her in a different part of the state where she was going to have a great life. And Casey Affleck turned the police chief in and returned the little girl to her shithead mother. And the mother immediately started neglecting her again. And Casey Affleck was happy because now she was among her own people again. And that's how the movie ended, where the little girl was going to be a drunken slut who was going to get knocked up at 18. And, you know, it was the most amazing movie because both of these brothers, I think they honestly they feel conflicted about being successful and having gotten out of their neighborhoods in Boston. I think they feel conflicted about that.
They had to go back and wear a dirty T-shirt and go to the bar and get shit-faced with the guys they went to school with in order to feel that they didn't stop belonging.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's a culture of shit.
I just
find that in both Irish and Italian neighborhoods.
Yeah.
You don't find it in Portuguese neighborhoods, surprisingly enough. But it is a Irish and Italian thing, mostly Irish.
Well, the whole like mafia thing, the American mafia thing. You hear these, I see these documentaries, and they always talk about, you know, you walked into a restaurant and everybody paid homage to you, and you got the best tables, and you got the best food and the best booze, and it's all like gluttony and you know, instilling fear in people, and it's, remember that guy?
Respect.
Or exactly. Remember that guy Whitey Bulger from Boston?
God.
Whitey Bulger.
I remember when they finally caught him. What a little shit he was.
Well, he got put in a federal prison, and he kept threatening the staff with death. So they put him in Hazleton, which is the most dangerous prison in the United States, and they put him in the general population, and he was murdered.
He was a rat.
Yeah, he was murdered within a matter of hours. Yeah. And the thing about him was that he was a big deal. He was in control of like 4 city blocks. That was like his territory. It was nothing. He was a schmuck. He was a little putz, and you know, oh God, Whitey, they caught Whitey Bulger. He was on the run for 40 years, and look at him.
Nobody was looking for him.
It was all,
and really nobody was looking. He was an FBI informant.
Yeah, it was all penny ante. That's what got to me. It was just so penny ante, and then he mouths off what a time too many. It's like mouthing off to a waiter. You tell the waiter, take this shit back and give me a better version of it, and the waiter takes it into the kitchen and goes, you know, you mouth off to the.
Fucking do it.
Of course they do it.
Even
and you mouth off to the
attendants used to put Vicine in the coffee.
Oh my God.
Literally, a bottle of Vicine.
Yeah.
And an asshole gets handsy with the flight attendants or whatever. The problem is, not only will he shit his soul, but apparently it may cause heart trouble. Nobody do it in the 80s, and they did it regularly. No,
you mouth off to the prison staff, and they transfer you to Hazleton, knowing it's a death sentence. People are stupid. If you're in a restaurant, you better be, regardless of the service, you better be as nice as you possibly can to the server. And I went to a restaurant once, and I was eating. Food was great, and I felt this I bit down. I pulled this piece of wire out of my food, and it was from one of those scrubbing brushes, the wire scrubbing brushes. So I called the manager over and I said, I don't want to make a big thing about this, but I'm just worried that there's more of these in other people's food. And his face went white, and he took the plate back in the kitchen and he comped the meal. He said, that's fine. And he escorted me out and he said, thank you so much for not making a big deal out of it. And I said, obviously it wasn't done on purpose. Obviously it was just it was an accident. So I'm not going to get angry at you. I was just worried that you have a disintegrating brush in there. So maybe it's time to replace that brush. And he was like nodding and everything. And nobody could tell what was going on because I was being very discreet about it. Because I knew, I mean, it just poked me a little. That's all.
Right thing if you want a solution.
Exactly. I just said maybe it's time to get rid of the brush. That's all. Yeah. And you know, I never wrote a bad review or anything. It was just an accident.
One of my friends just retired. He was a warden at Louisburg and a bunch of other institutions. He has some stories, I'm sure he does.
Oh,
Oh God. Actually, next time I'm in Pennsylvania, see if you can come over and bring your friend. We'll have a few beers and he can tell me stories. Oh.
No, people are whacked. They're just insane, and I can't imagine. I mean, I don't spend any time anymore wondering why people do what they do. I just, if somebody's a problem, I just figure out how to maneuver around them and put them in the rear view mirror. But just the things people do to fuck up their lives, it's incredible. Like the Iranian mullahs. They thought this day would never come. They honestly thought this day would never come.
Obviously, they still think it won't.
Well, exactly.
They still. Somebody put in the chat, you know, it's like the ostrich hiding its head in the sand, hoping that the hyenas will disappear.
Yeah.
These fucking idiots. Well, we've been saying it for so long, and we can't forget. When they asked me today about them, they said, well, how will they react? And I said, I can't tell you because they're not rational.
No, they are not rational. They are not rational.
Their mind doesn't work like yours or mine.
Yeah.
It works differently. And what they come up with is anybody's guess. What I do know is that they look at defeat in the mother of all battles as the fulfillment of a prophecy that justifies their existence. So they're not going to withdraw from it.
No.
They're going to go happily singing psalms to death, hoping that the Mahdi will come out of hiding to save their ass. And probably after that, they're all going to go and fuck 9-year-olds.
I still think the Israelis should create a giant hologram of the Mahdi coming out of his well and then show him getting blown up with Israeli missiles. I think that would be like really spectacular.
That would be nice, wouldn't it? Or he has the Mahdi come out of hiding and goes to the hiding place of Khomeini and goes like this.
My brother said he thought it would be great if the Israelis could create a hologram of the Mahdi coming out of the well. And he's wearing a ballerina's tutu and he starts twerking. And except who knows? Maybe they'd all be into it.
Dev says Khomeini. No, this is not Khomeini. This is Khamenei. Khomeini doesn't have a foot in the grave. Khomeini's been 6 feet under for a good many years. There's probably nothing left of him.
Well, did you see what they did to his?
Yeah.
Did you see what they did to his body during the funeral?
Everybody wanted a piece of it.
Yeah.
How many mullahs are in power? Hundreds. They're all in the city of Qom. I think it should be pulverized. And Khamenei is with one foot on the grave. Reportedly, he's already named successors.
His son, they expected his eldest son to be his successor, but he was overlooked. Oh, I just wanted to tell you, the Israelis destroyed all the launchers. There were 30 missiles launched, and the Israelis destroyed all 30 launchers, and they've also destroyed several ready-to-launch missiles. And they've killed all the missileers. The missileers were trying to flee in cars, and the Israelis blew up all the cars. So,
precisely what we were saying. And this is a truculent game that they're going to play for a couple more days until there are no fucking launchers. And then what? What are they going to do? Throw a goat at an F-35?
They won't be able to.
They're being bombed into the Paleolithic right now.
Well, also, I mean, they could give go orders to people here in this country, and I think there would be a handful who would carry it out. But I don't see mass casualty terrorism events coming. I could be wrong.
No.
It could be that the Iranians built explosives into buildings somewhere and are just waiting to get the order to set them off. But I doubt it. The attacks that we've thwarted have been really stupid. One IRGC member, his cover was he was a used car salesman, and when it came time to try and kill the Saudi foreign minister, it was just he was captured because it was such an inept attempt.
Yeah. But you know why he was a used car salesman? In the Richmond area, there is an avenue in the south side of Richmond with a bunch of low-cost used car lots. Half of them are Hezbollah. And they use the lot to launder money. They had the largest operation, and you're going to laugh, but it's true, to smuggle cigarettes from North Carolina to New York.
Sure.
Hundreds of millions of dollars per month.
Yeah, because cigarettes, the New Yorkers had the brilliant idea of making people pay $15 a pack or something. So, of course, they're willing to buy them on the black market.
$5.50 in North Carolina, $16 in New York.
Yeah.
Hey.
Yeah. No, the New Yorkers created a massive black market for off-the-book cigarettes, and people are willing to buy it. The number of smokers in this country has dwindled. I think only 20% of Americans are smokers.
There's still a huge market.
Exactly.
So they used to send 18-wheelers filled with cigarettes, place them in stores, in convenience stores, and the profits need to be washed somehow. And the somehow is you buy a $3,000 car, $4,000 car, pay cash in one of these stores. The store, by the way, can claim to have sold more cars than it did, but that's a different story. Let's assume that they only declare the money they received from the cars. And then they put the cars in Savannah or in Norfolk and ship them to West Africa. And there they sell it actually for quite a profit too. But now that money they received for that car sold in, say, Ghana, It's money that comes with a bill of sale. It can be deposited in a bank. And now it can be transferred anywhere in the world. It's the easiest fucking money laundering scheme ever. There was a point that a used car in Virginia cost a 30% more than any other neighboring state. Why? We have the biggest business of exporting cars to West Africa.
Well,
or the Caribbean, for that matter.
It's nice of us to let Hezbollah continue doing that.
Yeah, and we're still. I mean, they're still doing it, and but these people are criminals, but they're not the wisest jihadists.
Mm-hmm.
If they get an order, maybe they'll jump in a car and try to drive through a crowd. But this is small potatoes, jihadi wise. And then, remember the Pakistani asshole who tried to blow up a van in front of the Marriott Hotel in Times Square? Mm-hmm. That led to a redesign of Times Square that is a fucking nightmare. Mm-hmm. And the guy didn't set the detonator right. Mm-hmm. So the damn thing didn't explode. If it had exploded, there wouldn't be a Marriott. Mm-hmm. Right? But sometimes, you need the idiots. Anyway, we've been here for almost 2.5 hours. How about we cut it off at 2.5? Because it's later than usual.
Yeah, let's do it.
And it's going to kill us. And we'll pick this up. If you see anything that you really want to talk about, remember tomorrow we have the quad meet that everybody comes on screen, and we'll probably be discussing more of this stuff.
Okay.
I know maybe even Father Chris will join us.
Okay.
And Tuesday, the VIP room, only for the few. And Wednesday, the spaces in Twitter. Mm-hmm. And just remember, if you guys want to help us continue this, please send a contribution to either quadverum.com/support us. You can do monthly or one time, or become a member of our the Brother Lie handle in Twitter. Those are the only ones who can participate in that space. I believe that anybody, the way the spaces are set up, anybody can watch them, but only subscribers can participate. So with that, I hope that some of you are going to buy us a couple of coffees. And good night, everybody. And good night to the people in YouTube who are surprisingly loyal. And let me just say that not answering questions in YouTube has both a practical reason. We can't have too many screens with different chats because it's impossible to follow through. So we have to pick one. And we picked the one in our home channel because, frankly, YouTube sucks. They still were only allowing the beer blather to go through. You notice we don't put videos or music anymore because they always use that as an excuse to demonetize it. And I don't really care much about monetization in YouTube anymore because it's not such a large amount. Maybe with a program like this, we may be able to get $4 in ads. But the problem is that eventually it might lead to cancellation, and I don't want to close the account. I don't want to use it for political discussions anymore, but I don't want to close it. So we have it there in the back burner, and the only reason that we are allowing this transmission to go to YouTube is so that part of the almost 10,000 people who are still subscribed there, can you believe this? Will realize where we are and hopefully come to our new home. And if not, they can still watch the program, but participation-wise, it's better to come to Odyssey, and all you have to do is click on the link, and you're there. It's not a complicated matter. So, I think I just talked myself out.
Okay.
Yeah, I did. People don't know this. I'll tell the last anecdote. I don't think if I told I don't know if I told you this, but as you know, I was coming from Virginia. I was supposed to get to my hotel in Daytona at 2 a.m. Alas, I-95 was closed, blocked, a multi-car and truck pileup, and they closed the southbound for 4 hours. By the time I got to the stupid hotel, it was 5:45 a.m. But the problem is that a lot of people who were ahead of me on the I-95 decided not to stay the 4 hours there and got to the first exit and checked into a hotel. So the hotel was full. The sons of bitches sold my room. All I can say to excuse them is it was already 5 a.m. I was obviously a no-show from their standpoint. So they were very apologetic, and they said, well, don't worry, we won't charge you anything. We'll set you up for today. You can check out tomorrow. That is tomorrow. And here you can have breakfast in the meantime. Bottom line, I didn't get into the goddamn room until 10:30 a.m. And if I wanted to make it here by 9 p.m., I could not leave because, you have to stop for gas and all that jazz. So I could not leave beyond 4 p.m. So I ended up leaving at 3:30 p.m. In that period, 10:30 a.m., 3:30 p.m., I slept, ate, and took a shower. And then I took off. And as I was somewhere around Tradition, it's a place near Fort Pierce, I got a call. First, I was listening to the radio, the news of the successful operation in Iran. And as I was doing that, I got a call from K24. Can you please come in? When? Now. Was it now? Only because it's you guys, but I need to find a place to stop because there is no fucking way I'm going to set this up while I'm doing 80 miles an hour. So I got into the first gas station I found, the Sheets, and logged onto the thing, did the show, the interview, which I'm going to send you as soon as I get the link. And that made me even later. So I had to call you to move this an hour. And I hope everybody is patient with me today. But it's been an eventful beginning of the weekend. So thank you so much. I'll see you guys at 10:30 p.m. tomorrow. Thank you, Thomas. I'll see you when I see you, if you come to one of these things or at the end of the week. And thank you for your patience with me today. Is that it?
That's it.
Live long and prosper, Victor.
Okay.